The opinions expressed within the content of this podcast solely that of our guests and do not reflect the views and beliefs of the Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast, its hosts or its affiliates. Dave Weigert was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. His family has seen and experienced far more than most families with strange encounters and tragic moments. Dave, the youngest of 4 children and the only living sibling, went on to have many strange encounters throughout his childhood and adult life. At age 20 he began his journey to learn about the unknown. Dave has a background with Baltimore County Fire and Police, private security, bodyguard, bank security and security for a Baltimore sports team and other law enforcement agencies. Dave started the Maryland Paranormal Research Team in 2003 and closed the doors in 2016. He started Other Voices on the MPRT radio network along with a newsletter. From 2007 till 2016 he was the curator for the haunted Ramblewood Mansion. He hosted years of paranormal research and investigations at the location. Dave was also a mobile DJ for 35 years. Dave was a speaker at a number of colleges speaking about the paranormal to students. Dave founded the Maryland Bigfoot Research Team in 2018 and left it to a former member of MPRT. He now resides in Bucks County, Pennsylvania near his grandchildren. He has since founded the Mid-Atlantic Bigfoot Research Team. He currently hosts a podcast weekly called Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters Podcast. Let's welcome Dave to the podcast.
Welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters Podcast. And now your host, Dave Weigert.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters Podcast. Before we bring our guest on, I just want to let everyone know that We got a pretty bad storm here. We have 60-mile-an-hour winds. Thick tree branches are coming down off the trees. And earlier, my internet was in and out. So I'm going to pray that everything goes well. Before we bring our guest on, I want to make an announcement. Our co-host and co-founder of the Mid-Atlantic Bigfoot Research team, passed away. John Bowman, you'll see it up in the right corner. He passed away at age 49, young. He's going to be missed dearly, and may he rest in peace. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest. Just bear with me. This is my first time back on Restream within 2 years. StreamYard. I had switched over to Restream and had issues over there, so I came back to StreamYard. So bear with me. I'm going to bring in our guests. Robbie, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
All right, fantastic.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, before I do any questions, and I'll let you have the floor, I'm going to go ahead and play your bio. That's
Robbie Vegas is a pro wrestler, rock musician, and podcast host who began playing live shows in bands when he was 14. He writes and records and performs music to this day and started wrestling when he was 23 years old. He has held multiple championships within the professional wrestling business. He does extra work for WWE, and has done it for TNA and AEW as well. He's wrestled in multiple states and Canada and continues to do so currently. If you can't catch a live show for his music, he does have it out to stream, or you can download it on Apple Music, Spotify, and 150 plus other streaming platforms. His podcast can be found on every major podcast platform as well. It is now time to ring the bell. Let's welcome Robbie to the podcast.
so Robbie. I want to first thank you very much. Thank you very much for being my guest tonight. I did do a little bit of research on you. I'll have some questions for you, but I'm pretty much gonna, start off by letting you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I mean, the intro bio that just played kind of summed everything up in a nice little package. But yeah, I've been a musician for over 20 years, rock musician, and I have a couple releases out with a new single in the works that'll be coming out sometime this summer, maybe even early fall. You could find that on just about any streaming platform you can think of: Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Google Play, Amazon Music. I've been a professional wrestler since I was 23 years old, still currently doing that. Just had a match last night, actually, and have a string of matches coming up. And if you follow me on my Instagram, which is marked below here, Robbie Vegas Official, you will see all of my upcoming gigs and matches. And I started my own podcast about 5 years ago, and I interview rock stars, professional wrestlers, horror movie actors, authors, paranormal investigators, all kinds of things like that.
Okay, give me 1 second here. I want to make sure okay. Let me go back to there. Wow. Yeah, this is like, I started with StreamYard like 2 years ago, and I came back to it, and it's like totally different. So I'm still figuring out the board. Last night I had a guess, but something went wrong, and I'm sorry. We had to reschedule. So I'm glad everything's going well tonight. So that means it'll go well for him next week when I bring him back. My first question for you, Robbie, is I'm a big wrestling fan.
Mhm.
I'm 60 now, but back in my younger days, I did go to a pro wrestling school for a month, and then I was in
Hmm.
a car accident at work,
Oh wow.
and that was the end of it. So I couldn't continue, my career as a pro wrestler. But you know, I don't think it would have amounted to a big thing, but I still wanted to do it, and it was a sad situation that I couldn't. It's something that I would have, definitely done on the side as well as work. But I have two friends that I got into pro wrestling. One is deceased now; he died from cancer, and the second one, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of him. He's traveled all over Japan, Italy,
Oh wow.
Germany. Yeah, uh, Japan wrestling, and he's wrestled for. I'm sure you've heard of this CZW.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. His name is Claude Morrow, and he goes by the wrestling name Ruckus.
I'll have to look
Very,
that up.
very yeah, very talented. Uh, I mean, this. When I first met him, I was watching videos and seeing him doing things live. This guy could run up a wall and do a flip, and he just put me in mind of Rey Mysterio. So he come to me and he says, "I want a wrestling career." He said, "Can you help me?" He said, "I know you know people," and I said, "Yeah." I said, "So let's take you to your first, independent match, and then I'll introduce you to the people I know." And then he took it. Yeah, he took all. He used to collect rubber wrestlers, and he
Oh
sold
yeah.
every one of them to pay for his tuition.
Oh wow. Yeah. And I know the ones you're talking about too. Yeah, those are worth a lot.
Yeah, so he's gone on to do many things. He makes what do they call wrestling games,
Hmm.
and he just did. I just looked at one a few days ago where he created, the character for King Kong Bundy, as well as himself in the game. And there's a couple companies that put him in pro wrestling games. So,
Oh wow.
all right. So I want to. You're a musician.
Yeah.
I was not a musician, but I was a DJ for 35 years. So I love music, all kinds of music.
I'm a big '80s hair metal guy, and I also love the new metal scene that came the late '90s, early 2000s. But really, my musical taste is all over the board. But those are probably my top two, and you could hear it in my writing style if you listen to the music that I have out right now, as I'm sitting here in a Korn t-shirt.
My son would love that. That was like one of his favorite rock bands.
Oh
So
yeah.
who inspired you?
Well, originally I was inspired by Kiss, specifically Ace Frehley. Really stood out to me. I had Kiss Alive 1 on vinyl, and that was at the time when cover art really mattered and the inside of the vinyl really mattered. And flipping it open and seeing the pictures of Ace Frehley, I was immediately like drawn to him. So I started playing guitar, and I started playing in bands, and then I started writing my own music, my own lyrics, and I realized I wanted to be a singer as well. So yeah, flash forward however many years later, I was fronting my own band, and now I write and record my own music, and still going strong with that, and I'm still playing a lot of gigs, and just fitting it in whenever I'm not on the road wrestling.
Myself, wrong way. As you can see back there on the wall, I got my acoustic guitar. I'm not good, but I
Yeah,
play.
I
So,
noticed that right away. Actually, as soon as you came on,
yeah.
I was like, oh, I got a guitar on the wall back there. But
And
yeah, it
it's
just
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Besides Kiss and Ace Frehley, it's all the '80s hair bands. Like I grew up loving, Poison and Winger and Warrant and White Lion and
Mhm.
Trickster and Vixen and all those.
So I played. I started acoustic guitar in junior high school, and
Hmm.
over the years, I gave it up, went back to it, gave it up, went back to it. Uh, never wanted to be in a band or anything. But what instrument do you play?
I play guitar and I sing, and I dabble in other instruments, but I wouldn't say that I play them. I do mess around with bass a little bit and keyboard a little bit, but those are just things that I have fun playing around with. I'm primarily a singer and a guitar player.
Good. I am good. I am going to check out your music
Oh,
because,
thank
like
you. I
I said,
appreciate it.
yeah, I was a DJ for 35 years, and I love all kind of music. But there's a few that I won't touch. But the bad stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
But I'm sorry for mixing it up here. But this next question: how did you get into pro wrestling, and who trained you?
So I originally got into professional wrestling. I was always into it growing up. My cousins were into it. They were a little bit older than I am, and I used to go to their house and we would watch, Royal Rumble and Survivor Series and WrestleMania and all that. And then, of
Mhm.
course, there was the birth of Monday Night Raw, and I had all the action figures. And then I discovered there was an indie wrestling scene. Because I never knew how guys got to WWE or that there was, an independent scene. And, at that time, there really wasn't a such thing as territories anymore. There might have been some lingering things, but not really. Um, and so I discovered that, and an indie worker saw me in the gym, and he was impressed by how much I was lifting for somebody my size, and he asked me if I had ever thought about getting into professional wrestling, and I said yes. And he took me to a school. I wasn't very fond of the first school that I went to, but then I found Buffalo Championship Wrestling, which obviously for me is local, and Brian Jennings became my trainer, and I trained under him for a long time. And then I kind of hit the road, and I took a few seminars with Matt Cross and Al Snow, and just kind of hit the ground running, and I haven't looked back.
That's cool. So, back like I said, back when I was going to the wrestling school for a month, it was in
Mhm.
the PA area. But then, of course, after I couldn't do it and had to lose interest in it, I still became a fan, big fan. But of course, came the Monster Factory. I think that was
Mm.
one I would have loved to have attended. I'm sorry. And here's a question for you. Uh, what was your favorite match and with who?
Um, my favorite match that I've ever had, man, a few people came to mind when you said that. Big Time Bill Collier comes to mind. That was a great match that I had up at Excite Wrestling in the Binghamton area of New York. Just last night, I wrestled for the very first time ever, Price Pure Gold, and immediately one of my favorite matches. As soon as the match ended, I knew it was one of my favorites. And you're talking about Pennsylvania wrestling, so I'll throw out Big League John McChesney. Absolutely one of my favorite matches, favorite opponents, and I will also throw in Cloudy as one of my favorite opponents of all time.
Oh, okay. Uh, one of my other friends was a pro wrestler, and yeah, my wife loved him. He was Hollywood Bob Starr. Are you familiar with him?
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with the work.
Okay. He wrestled for WCW and other independent organizations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are some of the big names that you've wrestled? Such,
So again, some of the big names are some of my favorite opponents too. So this is a great follow-up question. But Fandango, definitely one of my favorite opponents that I've had. ECW original HC Loke, who I have another match coming up with next weekend. ECW original Super Crazy. Um, the Powers of Pain, Warlord and Barbarian.
wow.
Yeah, Leo Rush, one of my favorite opponents. So yeah, I've had quite a few, and a couple of people that I've teamed with but didn't face or worked with in some kind of capacity were WWE legend Tatanka and ECW and WWE superstar Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I actually went to a Mid-Eastern Wrestling Federation match, and the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer was there, and I got a Budweiser can from a 16 ounce from the Sandman.
Yeah, I've done a few shows with Sandman. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, like I said, and my son, he's like 30. What is he? 37. He's gonna smack me for not remembering how old he is. He's like 37, and that was his thing back in the days. Going to all the independent shows, being a guest ring announcer, and meeting up with the Road Warriors and
Mhm.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and and all them guys. And he still follows it today. Him and I just followed WrestleMania
Yep.
uh,
Yeah, I
this
watched
past
Mania
week.
both days. Hmm.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you think of WrestleMania?
I thought it was great. I thought the main events were exactly what they were supposed to be and what they should have been, and I thought the build-up was great. The hype around it was fantastic, and both main events delivered. And I think those guys all solidified themselves as Hall of Famers for sure.
Uh, well, I guess my son won because I told him, I said, I did a little bit of reading. Said, I think Dustin Rhodes is going to pop up at WrestleMania, and there's supposed to be an appearance by MJF. Neither one
Yeah.
happened, so he won.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had. I'm going to switch again.
Mhm.
You've had an encounter with Bigfoot,
I did.
and
Yeah.
you had a sighting,
Mhm.
and then I think you had a second encounter while you were hiking. Let's
I
tell us
did.
about.
Do you want me to go into both of them?
Yes, please.
So the first encounter I had was the hiking one, and that was when I didn't actually see anything. What I did was I found a footprint, and it was a very large footprint, and it looked like the toenails were like sharp, like clawed, like toenails, but the rest of the foot just looked like an overgrown human foot. And I was hiking alone, and it was a kind of a dangerous hike, and I bent down to check out this footprint that I saw, and there's a slope next to me and trees and stuff, and I don't really know, like I said, I'm not really like a big wildlife kind of guy, so I don't know what these things were,
Yeah.
but they look like small cherries in the trees. And as I was bending down looking at the footprint, they were coming down and hitting me in the face, and there was a few of them that did so. And I immediately was like trying to look up into the slope of like trees, and there was hanging branches, and I could not see anything. It was just that feeling of like, is something throwing things at me? Because they weren't falling straight down. They were coming down diagonally from this slope and hitting me. And I see this big footprint that was kind of fresh. And so I turned around. It was about halfway through the hike, and I went back the way I came, and went back to my car because I didn't know what I was seeing, and I didn't know what this footprint was, and I didn't know if something was intentionally trying to get my attention. And like I said, the footprint looked pretty fresh, so I got out of there. The second one I actually had a sighting was on a wrestling road trip. So I was with two other wrestlers and one of their girlfriends, and we were on a drive to Vermont. So we had our show, we had our matches, and to save money on a hotel, we decided, well, there's enough of us to where we can just drive back and take turns sleeping, driving. So we left Vermont. We were headed back towards, or you know what? I don't even know if we were coming home or if we were going to another wrestling show. We might have had another wrestling show in Pennsylvania that we were trying to make time for. That weekend is kind of a blur now, and I've told the story so many times. But at any case, we were driving. We left Vermont. We were leaving for whatever reason, whether it be to go to that show or to come back home. But so we hit this area on the way up that we noticed, and we were calling it the dead zone for about half hour. There was no houses, no street lights, there was nothing, no radio signal, no cell service, nothing. So on the way back, it was somewhere between Barrie, Vermont, and I believe it's White Plains, New York. I could be wrong on that. You could fact check that. But either way, I know there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings in the area because we drove past some things with like, there's a big Bigfoot statue in the middle of town, and there was souvenir shops, and they were getting ready for a Bigfoot festival and stuff like that. And so we hit the dead zone, and the other guys were, afraid to see anything. And like I said, there's no street lights, no nothing. So we had the high beams, and I had my phone out, and I had the flashlight on my phone. I wasn't recording or anything. I was just making a joke. I was teasing the other guys, saying, I'm going to shine this in the woods, and we're going to find Bigfoot. We came around the corner of this winding road, this bend, and we just saw this massive creature just standing there. And the whole encounter probably only lasted for a number of seconds. But in that first moment when you saw it, like it almost felt like time stood still. And I dropped my phone, and the driver was like, "What the?" And then the guy in the back sat up and was like, same, like shocked. And it turned, and it took like one to two steps. Like it was like boom, and it was just about gone. And then by the time it hit like that next stride, you couldn't see it anymore because the steps were so long. It was such like a big step. So when it turned and it did that motion, it was like, wow. And we were just kind of stunned, and nobody said anything. We didn't want to talk about it. We had no cell service, no radio signal. And the road was so long and winding that there was no way to speed out of there. We would have flew off the road. So we just had to kind of just keep driving, and we hope for the best. And once we got back to where there were some street lights and the radio came back on and the cell service came back on, it was, hey, what did you see? What did you see? And we all told like different versions of what we saw, to make sure, like I told the first part, he told the second part, he did like that kind of thing. Like, what did you think you see? And we went around the horn like that. And it turned out we all saw the exact same thing. So at that moment, there was no questioning what we were looking at because we all agreed on what we saw in that particular moment.
Now, was it an adult or?
Yeah, for sure.
How big do you think it was?
Well, there was like a really big boulder next to it that maybe could have come up to its hip. I don't even think it fully got that. Like this thing was massive. People always ask me to gauge how tall I think it was, and I tend to say like 8 feet. But I'm so bad at that. So like to cover my ass, I'll just say 8 to 10 feet, but at least 8,
Yeah. What did it look like? Did it look human or what did it look like to you?
It was covered in hair, gray. It was definitely gray. I don't know if that meant that it was older or if that's just the color it is. But it was very human-like. It was just like a hairy man. The face was very much, besides all the hair, of course, like a man. And from what I could tell, it did have like, normal hands, just, hair, but normal hands. And other than that, it was just, and it happened so fast that that's really like in my mind, that's really all I could recall.
Okay. Before I ask this next question, I want to give a shout out to Bill Rigby and thank him for being in the chat room. Bill, if you have any questions, please ask. And Robbie, say hi to Bill.
Hey, Bill, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
And Bill, I hope your wife is getting better. And I'm sending prayers to you every day. Again, thanks for joining in. So, what do you think a Bigfoot is?
To me, I think it's a missing link. I think it's right there in the middle of man and ape. I think it's a part of evolution that it stopped at a certain point, and whereas the rest of man could evolve, I don't necessarily think that Bigfoot did. I do think there's some kind of link there. I've heard other people say that it's like interdimensional and things like that, and I don't necessarily buy into that, but I'm not negating anybody else's opinion when I say that. But to me, I really think it's just like half man, half ape or gorilla, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Now, when you saw, I know it was quick.
Mhm.
Had to be seconds. I guess
Yeah.
7 to 10 seconds. Um,
hmm
did you get a photo?
No, so I actually had my phone in my hand because, like I said, I was messing with those guys, but I didn't have anything specific on my screen. I just had the flashlight turned on. And when we came around that bend and the high beams hit it and I, saw it, I had my phone like this and I looked. And at the exact same time that the driver sat up, I saw his eyes get real big before he, and I literally dropped my phone on the floor. And then we just kind of
Right.
kept past it. And I was just like in shock. And for a second there, I didn't even go to pick my phone up. I just kind of was like, "Oh my God." So,
Now I'm sorry, the two friends you were with, are they believers? Well, I guess they are now.
well, yeah, that's the thing is, I was to begin with. I don't think they were or weren't. They just weren't into it. Like they just kept saying, like, I don't want to see anything. Like, if that is out there, I don't want to know it. Like stuff like that, you know.
Right.
But I don't think there's really any denying it. Now we've talked about it since a couple times between the three of us, and they definitely know what they saw, so they're not denying it at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly how my son is. When I first moved into this cabin, my son and I, we were moving some stuff in, and we had some type of cryptid sighting.
hmm
It only lasted, I don't know, 10 seconds.
hmm
But when I continued to discuss it with him, he didn't want to talk about it. He was just like, "Leave it alone." And when you get to my house, don't. This is Mike. I gotta tighten it up. But he said, when you get to my house, he said, don't bring it up. Don't bring it up around the kids. Don't bring it up around my girl.
Uh-huh.
And I continued to bug him,
hmm
and he just told me the same thing. And he's like, I don't believe in that stuff. And I'm like, how could you say you don't believe in it when you saw it? He's
Right.
like, what did I say? Leave it alone.
Now, when you
I'm
say
done.
cryptid, are you talking Bigfoot? Are we talking Dogman? What are we talking about?
I think it was Dogman.
Oh wow.
But I listened to uh, a lot of sightings, and all I can say is it looked like a werewolf on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, that
um,
sounds like Dogman.
but see, not once. This was twice. Me and my son had the first sighting. I had the second one a year later.
Oh wow.
And when I had my second one, that's the one I'm saying looked like a werewolf on steroids.
Wow.
There's a gentleman by the name of Lon Strickler who posted not far from where I had my sighting.
hmm
Other people had a sighting of it as well.
Oh wow.
And as far as Bigfoot, the closest Bigfoot sighting to where I live,
hmm
half a mile.
Oh
Because
wow.
I live in a community, but it's mostly farm and wooded areas that go for
hmm
miles and miles and miles, and throughout PA. So I basically live in an area that's more woods and more farms than
Yeah.
residential homes. Yeah. So
Wow.
now you're also into the paranormal.
Yes, I am very much.
Okay. And does that consist of I know cryptids as well, but
Yeah.
as far as paranormal, does that consist of ghost hunting, stuff like that, or
Yeah, I was very heavy into exploring places that are known to be haunted. I don't do that as much anymore as I did when I was younger. One, I don't have time, but two, I've had so many encounters that I'm over it. I don't want to have any more. But yeah, I'm very into like hauntings. I love watching the ghost hunters and ghost adventures and all the documentaries about all the most haunted places. I have a book sitting right over here, Historic Haunted America, with go state by state with all the most famous hauntings and stuff like that. So I try to stay up to date on those things, and it's just really something that always interested me.
Yeah, I know about time. I have two books sitting on the shelf that I'm writing, and I've been writing them for years. There comes that moment. Well, I guess I got to put it back on the shelf until I
Mhm.
resolve another issue, and or something else that I'm always adding to my plate. I don't clean my plate off before you know I
Yeah.
add
No.
something on. I'm always piling it on top, on top, on top.
Yeah, I
So,
feel that.
and I started the Maryland Paranormal Research Team in
Mm,
2003, and uh, in the bio, I hung my boots up in 2016. I just got
mm,
tired of all the drama and all the bull crap, and I always wanted to, uh, you know, investigate Bigfoot and get into that. So that's where I'm at now, and I'll continue to do that. But every now and then, if I get a chance to go ghost hunting, I will. So
mhm.
let's see here. So, do you go out looking for Bigfoot, putting boots on the ground?
I do not. The two experiences that I had were completely by accident. The first
Right.
one, the hiking one, I did do some research afterward. Um, and it turns out there have been multiple sightings in the area that I was in. And I did not know that prior. So when I found the footprint and I was like kind of feeling uneasy and the things were hitting me, and I left, the first thing I did when I got home was research that area, that hiking region. And it turns out there was quite a few sightings there. So it is possible that what I found was a Bigfoot footprint. And I may have had some kind of interaction. I can't say yes or no either way on that one, but speculating, I think I did.
Now, when I speak of paranormal, have you ever had an encounter with a ghost or seen a ghost?
I have multiple, actually. Some of them were my fault. Um, One that comes to mind first that was really strange is it was an apartment that I don't live in anymore. But the way that it was set up is if you're sitting on the couch watching TV, if you looked to the right, there was a long hallway and there was the door to get into the apartment, and then two bedrooms on one side, a bedroom on the other, and then a bathroom right up the middle. And I don't know what made me look. It was really dark. I was watching TV in the dark, and I looked down the hall, and there was a white mist that you could see clear as day on the ceiling. And it came down the hall, and it ducked underneath, like there was like a little I don't know what they call those, just like a little swoop in the ceiling there, just to like separate the rooms, as if there was once a door but there's not anymore, kind of thing. So it like
Mhm.
swooped underneath that, came back up to the ceiling, went all the way across out, and I'm on the second floor, by the way, and it went out the front picture window and outside, and I never saw it again. And it was the weirdest thing that and it just came out of nowhere. So
Wow.
yeah.
Now, I mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, no, go ahead. I was gonna ask if you wanted any more stories, but ask your question.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We got plenty of time left. I was just going to say that I was the curator for a place called Ramblewood Mansion in Darlington, Maryland, in the Susquehanna River area,
Mhm,
and actually Rising Sun, yeah. And I did that for a number of years. I did that from 2007 to I believe 2018, might have been 16. Um, but I had all them years I did research there. I mean, I had a number of encounters, as far
mhm,
as electronic voice phenomena and other pictures, that photos and video and stuff like that. But I did see a woman in
mhm.
period clothing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it was I had a team come in to do an investigation, and when they came in, they lasted until, like, I think it was around 3 or 4 in the morning.
Mm,
So they said, okay, well, we're going to go to our room, because this mansion had a number of bedrooms and
mhm,
huge rooms that could hold like 5, 6 beds in each one. And so they went up and they turned in, and I went into the family room and I sat down and I laid back And I took my glasses off to put it on the table, and I heard a noise. So I sat up to see if maybe, one of their members had been outside smoking or something like that.
Mhm.
And I saw a woman walk by in a blue dress, robin, what do they call it? The bird robin, that
Mhm.
A color.
Yeah.
And by the time I got up, she should have still been going up the staircase, and she was not. So
Oh,
I went
wow.
up the staircase, and I had to wake up the founder of the group, and he brought everybody out into the hallway, and they were like pretty much in pajamas or still wearing what they were wearing the night before. And I was like, "Wow, I think you guys went to bed too early." So they all got back up and they started investigating, and lasted about another hour, and nothing happened. So they
Oh, wow.
turned back in. Yeah.
Wow.
So go ahead. What else have you experienced?
Um, so when I was younger, probably in my late teens and early 20s, we got heavily, I say we, as me and some of my friends got heavily into using Ouija board. I don't recommend this. The one I had was very old. It wasn't just like a Milton Bradley, Ouija board. I think it was somebody's mom found it in like her attic or something, didn't even know how it got there kind of thing. And we were like, we'll take it. Um, so we started using the Ouija board, and there was a lot of very strange experiences that happened around that board. I remember one specifically with a friend of mine. Um, the way that the basement was set up is one half of it was finished and the other half was for like laundry and things like that. And there was a door, so we closed the door to that room, and the only
Robbie, I lost your audio. Huh. Let's see.
can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah, yeah. I just got a pop up that said it was your mic that muted. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I popped up for me too, and I didn't know what was going on. But so it was a while ago. So there's an old desktop computer in the basement in the far corner. It's a very long basement, and we were sitting at this round table and we were doing the Ouija board, and then this very dark shadow came out from the other side of the wall, and I saw it, and I told my buddy that it was over there, and he also agreed, and he saw it, and then the computer turned on, and then from there, you could start to see the old tube monitors. They weren't the flat screen monitors. It was like the big bubble back monitor starts lighting up. And as it was lighting up, and we in that side of the basement, had a little bit of light to it, the shadow didn't really dissipate at first. It was just kind of like lingering, like it wanted us to see it and know that it turned on the computer. And I'll never forget that one because that one really scared me. And my bedroom was 2 floors up from the basement. And I remember one night after playing with the board, I went to bed. I went all the way upstairs, and I went in my room and I shut the door. And I started walking towards the bed, and the door opened behind me. So I went back, pushed the door closed. And as I was pulling my hand back from the door, it opened and hit my hand. So I pushed it closed again really hard, as if to say, like, knock it off. And, because that went on for a minute, where it's open, close. And then it finally stopped after that. But that one really freaked me out too. And
Wow.
I think and this is why I tell people not to play with the Ouija board, because things got weird, like more than once. And 10 years after we got done playing with the board, a friend of my sister's went to a psychic, and the psychic didn't know my sister, never met her. My sister wasn't even there. Her friend went alone. And the psychic was like, I need to see your friend so and so because she has an attachment. And it turned out that the attachment started 10 years ago from the Ouija board that we were playing with. And they basically said, have you ever seen the movie Insidious? Because that's what's going to happen to you if we don't get rid of this attachment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Robbie, I'm going to do a quick commercial break for
Sure.
a good friend of mine. He has an event coming up, and I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then we're going to come back and talk some more.
Sure.
Okay. All right. For some reason, it don't want to play, but I'm going to try another one. So let's. Wow. For some reason, they don't want to play. I'm not sure why, but let me try one more time and see what happens. All right, I played a little bit, but it kept stopping. Was it doing the same thing when you're in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, not sure why it's doing that. I guess I'm gonna have to talk to StreamYard later and find out why. So let's go back to paranormal. You have any more stories for us?
I'm sure I have tons. I could probably do this all day. So there's a haunted place not too far from here, and at the time when I was younger and I was still into going to those places on purpose, there's a place called Pigman's Road, and it's about 1.5 miles long, and there's one street light directly in the middle of the road, and there's all kinds of legends around the road of what's there and how to get activity. And I'd gone there a few times prior, and we had like minor experiences, weird sounds and things like that. And one night, me and a friend of mine were going to drive up there, just the two of us, and we're going to walk the road essentially. And the closer we got, I just started getting a really bad feeling, and like a sick feeling in my stomach almost. Like I really was starting to feel like physically sick. And I was like, I don't know if we should do this. And we got to Pigman's Road. And we stopped at the top of the road, and you can see the street light from where we parked the car. We were still in the car. And I just got this super uneasy feeling. And I turned and I said, I don't think we should get out of the car. And we looked up, and the street light was kind of dim. It got brighter, and brighter, and then it just blew out. And I was like, turn around, turn around, turn around. We backed that car up and we got out of there. And the farther we got away, I started feeling normal. No more sickness. My stomach was fine. Like by the time I got home, I was perfectly fine. Like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, I've had similar cases like that over the years. The biggest thing that for me was if I went into a haunted location and it was terrible, I had problems. I had problems breathing until I
yes
went to the outside, and then everything just went back to normal. And
Yeah,
the sickening feeling as well, nauseated, and stuff like that. Then of course we would have tools that we used for the paranormal, batteries die, and the failures, and
yeah.
So let me ask you this: have you ever heard a spirit in your audible and not played back on a
Yes.
EVP?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. There's one that really scared me when I was younger, and I still can't explain it to this day. It didn't say anything threatening. It just scared me because it was so loud. So again, I was always a music kid, and I was probably a teenager. I was still living at home, and I was listening to music like really loud. And whenever I would do that, if my parents needed me or if my dad needed me, he would, bang on the wall and I would turn it down, or he would just yell, "Hey," like really loud, like up the stairs. and I was blaring music, and I had my eyes closed. I think I was like, just listening to the music or whatever, and I heard like it was right in my ear, like, "Hey," like really loud, and it like made me jump, and I shut the music off, and I was like, "Yeah," and I just kind of listened, and I didn't hear anybody say anything, so I opened my bedroom door. Yeah, nothing. So I went downstairs. Nobody was even home. So I don't know what that was, why it was that specific moment, but it scared the shit out of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cabin that I live in from time to time, I don't know why, but weird things happen. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
One of the weirdest things was I was getting ready for a doctor's appointment, and I went into the bathroom and I got my can of Axe, and I
Mhm.
came out to the living room and I sprayed myself a little bit after getting out of the shower. And
Mhm.
I went into the kitchen to get a drink so I could take some medication, and I set the I'm sorry, I set the can on the counter,
Mhm.
and I came back in to take my pills, and I sat down on the sofa, and I hear this like swish sound, and then all of
Mhm.
a sudden I hear, and I go out in the kitchen, and the can's about 10 feet away from where I put it, spinning
Oh
on the
my
floor.
god.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
grabbed it and I picked it up and I sat it down. And
Mhm.
then from that moment, you know, being a former paranormal investigator, I haven't done anything
Mhm.
or, since I've been in here, and I've been in this cabin for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I never attempted to do any EVP work or anything, knowing my neighbor told me that two people died in separate cabins here.
Oh my god.
So I'm figuring, well, maybe it's related to that. So I made a note for myself. I'm going to sit down one night and I am going to do some EVP work
Mhm.
just to see what I get, because I've had tons of stuff happen since then.
Yeah.
Since they can, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I caught an EVP by accident once, and it was on my podcast. I was doing a podcast, a Kiss podcast. We did a draft of '80s Kiss songs, and it was myself, my co-host Chaz, and a couple of the guys from Wednesday 13 and Adler's Appetite. And I didn't hear it while we were recording it, and I didn't hear it when I was doing the editing. I got my headphones on. I was, editing whatever, but I was listening to it back after it was released, and Mike Dupke, who's the former drummer of Wasp and current drummer of Wednesday 13, was talking, and he stopped for a second, and a voice that's none of the other guys who were on the episode goes, "Shut up." And we have no idea where that came from. I took the snippet out, I sent it to Mike, and I said, "Do you hear this?" And he was like, "Whoa, that's creepy." And we have no idea, but it just out of nowhere. So I don't know if it came from, there were so many of us on the podcast in different locations. It could have come from anybody's house. So we don't know whose
Right.
house it came from. We just know that as he was talking, he took a quick break to collect his thoughts, and it said, "Shut up."
Now, I'll tell you, I'll share one with you. Uh, I was working at a restaurant bar called the Crab Quarters years ago, and I had just got done setting up, and I told my wife, I said, let's go ahead and hurry up and eat, and then I'll go ahead and start karaoke.
Mm.
So there's plenty of people in the dining room, and they're all sitting there and they're eating, and we're eating as well. And all of a sudden, out of my speakers, you hear this eerie voice go, "Hello, hello, help." And
Oh my
everybody's
God.
head came from looking down at their plate, looking at my speakers, and it just continued. There was like a pause, then it did it again.
Oh,
And then I said something to my friend. I'm like, well, there you can pick up 2A radios, commercial people in that area working and stuff like that.
mhm.
But why the hell would they say, hello, help,
Yeah.
hello? And I don't think it was somebody playing a joke that was in the bar or the restaurant. I mean, could
Hmm.
have been. I can't say for sure, but it never happened again. Just at one time.
Wow, that's interesting.
And I thought I was freaking out. The people that were eating in the dining room were freaking out more than I was and my wife. And they were like,
I'm
I'm
sure.
out of here.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know,
I'm sure.
I'm going, they were saying I'm going somewhere else for karaoke. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't believe this. They were that freaked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got about 5 more minutes. So let's, I'm sorry, let me flip this over and, okay, lost my uh Robbie, I'm gonna ask you for, and I'll pay for it. I want an autographed photo of you
Oh,
uh
sure.
for my son's wrestling collection. Uh
Sure.
he'll probably watch this podcast later, but yeah, where was it? If anyone wants to watch your podcast, listen to your music,
Hmm.
uh get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
So, as far as the podcast goes, I'm on all major streaming services: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, Odyssey, all that stuff. I don't always do video for the podcast, but when I do put it up on my YouTube channel. It's just Robbie Vegas on YouTube. The best way to get a hold of me and to see updates on, my music, my wrestling, my podcast is going to be on Instagram, which I did put. Oh, it's on this side below here. It's
Okay.
Robbie underscore Vegas underscore official on Instagram. That's where I do most of my promoting, and my music is available on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, Amazon Music, and 150 other streaming services. And as far as wrestling goes, right now I'm primarily wrestling between Canada, New York State, and Pennsylvania, but I am going to be heading out to Michigan very soon. And you just never know where I'm going to pop up. Sometimes I go as far out as Indiana. I've been up to Vermont, out in Ohio. So really, wherever I get booked, as long as it works with my schedule, I'm going. So yeah, the best way to keep up is to check out Instagram and see where I'm going to be.
Great. That's wonderful. So I wish we had more time. Um, what I'd like to do, I'm going to send you my address, and you know, let me know what it costs for you to send out a wrestling photo autograph. And
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I have 8x10s, so
yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
okay, that's good. Let me just set one thing up here real quick. So, Robbie, there's about 3 minutes left. Do you have anything else you want to add, or
Uh, Not off the top of my head. I will say though, please give me a follow on social media and check out my
okay?
podcast because usually people who are into paranormal and Bigfoot and stuff like that, I do have like the horror movie guests, and I've had authors on who write about cryptozoology, and I did have a cryptozoologist, on as well. So there's times when I dig into the paranormal also, and who knows? Like sometimes if I get the right guest, I end up, trigger some of my own stories that we're talking about today, and you might catch something like that too. And if you're a big rock and roller like I am, you'll love it. I've had Dee Snider on from Twisted Sister, Steve Brown from Trickster, all the girls from Vixen, Ace Von Johnson from L.A. Guns. The guys from Dope, guys from Wednesday 13. So, if you're a rocker, you're into horror, and it's the podcast for you.
Yeah. So if you look at my outro at the end,
Hmm.
I'm sure it's in there. There's a photo of me with Bill Bean, Keith Age, who was the bass player for Ted Nugent,
Hmm.
um, and Jason from Friday the 13th. So
I
it's like,
caught that.
yeah, that's who they were. So
Yeah, I have met
yeah,
Kane
well,
Hodder multiple times. He's a great guy.
you know, yeah, definitely. Um, so I'd like to bring you on again for another hour.
Sure.
I'll keep tabs with you and check with your schedule and see what we can do and bring you back for another hour.
Cool. Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, Robbie, thank you very much for being a guest tonight, and I'll go ahead and send you that information once I get off of here.
Yeah, man, you
And
got it.
thanks again, and rock on, man.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, and thank you to all your listeners, your viewers. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you again. Good night, Robbie.
Night.